a lot of things are going against men. And in recent times, things are overwhelming as far as the activities of men or the existence of men, so to speak, is concerned. And so what we're trying to come out Opanest Network is to be able to really get men along, because it looks like the today man is not living with a purpose. I say so not to really bring any accusation or nail any man or, try to find fault with men. But I think that the time has come for men to gain their grounds and then be the authority they were created to be. And that is why it's become necessary for us to focus our broadcast from this day on till when perhaps it becomes necessary for us to change the style. But as it stands now, the focus is going to be on men. For those of you who are watching for the first time, it will be appropriate for you to subscribe so that if you're a man, you get to know about some of the things we are going to talk about as far as men are concerned. However, this particular page, or network is not against women at all. In fact, it is to make men better so we can really handle the women and make them the queen they are supposed to be or they are made to be. And so once we become the men, once we become the kings, we'll be able to have the sense of handling our queens in the right manner. So basically, the focus is going to be on men, but what we are going to encourage is for women to track, because we are going to talk to a range of people, married men, divorcees. We are going to talk to CEOs. We are going to talk to medical officers. We are going to talk to a lot of people, range of people, and talk about range of things, so that we will be able to reach that point where if you're a woman and you are following this page or this network critically, once you have a husband, once you have a brother, once you have a cousin who is a male, and once you have a son, it will go a long way to help you to see how best you'll be able to pass on some information, or better still, live and deal with men in a manner that will bring peace and tranquility to the home. So first of all, it's very important for us to note that men are dying too early. Don't you think so? In this dispensation, it looks like the men, when you strike the population, the women are more, and all of us are aware. But a few men are also dying too quick, too rampant, too early. And so we'll be addressing this issue in our subsequent broadcast to see what the cause is and how this can be averted. And also, it's very important for us to know that although men are, in terms of population are few, there are too many men in prisons. Have you really checked? Has that been a concern to you? That too many men are in prison these days. And so when you go to the prisons and you strike the average, you realize that so many men are having so many problems and finding themselves so many times in prisons. So in our subsequent broadcast, we'll be addressing this issue to look at why it is so. And then also, I think it's very important for us to understand that some men are complaining. Idleness has become the issue in this dispensation. So when you walk through town, men are sitting idle. And what they normally can tell you is that there's no job and things like that. So we'll be speaking to some CEOs out there to find out whether there are jobs out there or there are no jobs, and why our men, our brothers out there are sitting so idle in most cases. And also, it looks like in my conversation with people across board, it looks like men, the laws across the globe does not really favor men. Do you think so? Because that's what a lot of men are talking about, are complaining that the laws of the countries and I mean the countries, are not really favoring them. Well, in this broadcast and the subsequent broadcasts, we'll be addressing the issue of the law and men, and why perhaps is the reason a lot of men are in prison. And it also come to notice that men are being divorced much these days. It's not perhaps it's supposed to be the vice versa, but instead men are being divorced. And so we'll be talking to some experts in our subsequent broadcast to find out why men are being divorced, or why the divorce rate has risen. Because normally when you go to the divorce court, greater percentage of those who really come with their cases, in fact, divorce cases, who file for divorces are women and not men. And so it looks like men are being divorced, by the day. And so we'll be talking to some legal experts to find out what the reason is. We'll be talking to some counselors and find out what the reason is and why this issue of men being divorced so rampantly these days in our societies. And I think that it is also very important for us to look at the 50-50 splitting bills, that a lot of people have been talking about. Is it okay for the men to shoulder every responsibility 100% hands down? Or should it be a 50-50 deal? So we'll be talking to some experts in this area to find out what the appropriate thing is supposed to be. And then maybe finally the gender equality. Is it something that is helping us as a people globally? Is it bringing progress to the world? Is it okay for men to be as equal as men, women, so to speak? And if it is something that is bringing progress to our world, why not? If it is also diminishing progress in terms of family, growth and relationships and all of that, we'll be talking to some experts along the line, and then we'll find answers to some of these issues. But again, it is very important for men basically to have purpose. That is the agenda. In fact, that is the reason for this particular broadcast and our subsequent broadcast. Because if men are living with a purpose, then it means that they will have a direction as far as life is concerned. It is also very important that men live intentionally, having intentionality in your living, in your life, in embarking on this journey called life. It's very important. So we'll also be taking a look at that in that sense. And then also very important for men to take their health seriously. So along the line, we'll be talking to some health experts to help us address the issue of health as far as men are concerned. And then the finances of men is also very important. So we'll also be looking at that area, how men can secure themselves and secure the family and secure the world when men are financially sound. I think it makes a lot of sense. So we'll be talking to some experts along the line, and then we'll be addressing that issue and in that area as well. Especially when it comes to the seriousness of men as far as the family is concerned, the family upbringing, the family growth, the responsibility of men as far as family is concerned. In fact, this is also very important. So we'll also be looking at it as we move along as far as our subsequent broadcast is concerned. And also friendship. We talked about, I mentioned intentionality earlier. Should we just go into friendship? Should we just handpick anybody at all and then conclude that he is my friend? Or should we be intentional about who men choose as their friends? And then also spirituality is very important. I think the world is a spiritual world. And so we'll be talking to some group of people, range of people with different spiritual backgrounds to tell us what it takes to be able to engage ourselves spiritually, to be able to bring growth in the area of purpose of living and the area of intentional living, and also taking our health seriously, our finances seriously, and also the kind of friends that we choose to go along with as far as life generally is concerned. So I will encourage you to subscribe, be the first person to, subscribe, especially looking at the dimension that our broadcast is going to take from now. Subscribe and then follow us critically. There are a lot of things that we'll be learning in this particular scenes or segments or broadcast that will be bringing you along the line. So subscribe and let's see how best we'll be able to go along and bring solutions to men. Yes, men. Right. Take care of yourself and let's meet in the next video.